Hi guys, welcome to a new episode with me, Derek, aka Sal, the Omega Enthusiast. You may notice that my videos are mainly about pre-1970s vintage Omega watches, so I thought maybe I would discuss something different for this video. I will share a few 1970s Omega watches, some you may have seen before, while other may be new to you. When you think of the 1970s, futuristic, sci-fi and fantasies are some of the things that comes to mind. That's why many 1970s Omega watches are pretty funky looking, such as their popular dynamic Geneve and the chubby UFO saucer looking Seamaster 2000. I will go through what I currently have in stock and share them with you guys, starting with some of the more common references. So without further ado, let's get started. The first reference I have here is 166.0163, an automatic Geneve watch with a calendar feature, first introduced in 1973. This reference is popular throughout the mid-1970s and still is until this day since they are inexpensive. This watch has a manual wind and a day-date version but under different reference numbers. There are several dials and hand variation, but this one in particular I think is my favorite because of the printed Brigade font. It's just a simple and clean watch to wear. So this reference came in solid steel, gold-plated with steel back, and solid gold. If you plan on purchasing the gold-plated version, check the edges of the lugs and the side of the case, as corrosion is quite common. The case dimension on this reference measures 35 mm in diameter, excluding the sign crown by 41.6 mm from lug to lug. The case thickness is 10.8 mm, including the acrylic crystal. The case lug width is 18 mm. Unscrew the case back. Inside you will find the case reference number. A flat gasket will be around the back, and most importantly, this metal ring is there. You will find this ring on many late 1960s and 1970s Omega watches with a round screw-in caseback. It is there to press against the movement holder to keep everything stable when the case is closed. This reference came with a caliber 1010 with 17 jewels or 1012 with 23 jewel automatic movement. I understand that many watch collectors dislike the 1000 series caliber. Indeed, their quality is not as great as the previous series. However, if these movements are correctly serviced, they are precisely accurate. Just in case you wonder what the day and date version looks like, here is one example. This one has the burgundy reddish dial and is under reference 166.0117. The automatic movement it takes is an Omega caliber 1022 with 23 jewels. In case you're looking for this same bracelet to put on your watch, the bracelet number is 1193 with a pair of number 672 end pieces. Many watch collectors will get confused between a 166.0163 and an earlier reference under 166.070, which is this gold piece. Here I have a side-by-side comparison of both pieces. The only difference is their movement is not the same. 166.070 carries a better made movement under caliber 565 with 24 jewels. It was first introduced in 1969 and lasted until around 1972. Not to mention that 166.070 is an undervalued reference. This example I have here dates to 1971 and is in solid 14K gold. Next, if you're looking for something a bit larger than the previous references, maybe consider looking at one of the following two references. 136.0102, first introduced in 1974, is a manual wind watch with a date feature. Or 166.0168, first introduced in 1973, is the automatic version with the date feature. They come in many different dial tone, red, green, and blue, to name a few. Some watch collectors refer these as a poor man Patek Philippe reference 1491. The case dimension is 36.4 millimeters across, excluding the original sign crown by 44.5 millimeters from lug to lug. The case thickness is 9.8 millimeters, including the original acrylic crystal for reference 136.0102 and 10.3 millimeter thick for reference 166.0168. The case lug width is 18 millimeters. If you wonder how to tell the reference number apart, remember that automatic version will say automatic on its dial. Similar to watch number 1, unscrew the case back and you'll find the reference number inside. Make sure the case gasket is there, and most importantly, the metal ring is there also. It is best to avoid buying a watch with missing case parts. 136.0102 carries a manual wind caliber 1030 movement with 17 jewels, and 166.0168 carries an automatic caliber 1012 movement with 23 jewels. You'll see 2 case clamps and screw if you thoroughly examine the movement. They are there to keep the movement holder in place. Not forget to mention that these 1000 series caliber have the hack set feature. This means the second hand will pause when you pull the crown out to set the time. Next on the list, Omega introduced a pair of his and hers Genève model in 1974. These are extra simple and slim looking timepieces with an extraordinary dial design. The gents version is under reference 111.0117 and the ladies version is under reference 511.0469. Many watch dealers will list the ladies version as a gents watch because of its unisex size. However, if you follow the Omega reference chart, the 5 indicates a ladies watch, the first one indicates manual wind without a second feature, and the second one indicates non-water resistant. That's why it is important to research prior to making any purchases. The case dimension on the gents piece measures 30.2 millimeters excluding the crown by 42 millimeters from lug to lug. The case thickness is 6.9 millimeters, including the original acrylic crystal. The case lug width is 24 millimeters. The case dimension on the ladies piece measures 24.5 millimeters excluding the crown by 36 millimeters from lug to lug. The thickness is 7.2 millimeters, including the original sign crystal. So if you have a smaller wrist like me, this ladies piece will wear nicely on your wrist. The case lug width is 18 millimeters. Both watches comes in a snap open case and carries the same manual wind movement under Omega caliber 625 with 17 jewels. Caliber 625 is a small, slim, non-second movement used in many vintage Omega watches throughout the 1970s and is one of the most effortless Omega movement to work on, almost as if Omega gave up on its movement design during the 1970s. I have only seen these in solid steel or gold-plated with a steel caseback. Next, I have a TV-shaped vintage Omega DeVille automatic watch with the date feature under reference 156.0002, first introduced in 1973 and lasted until 1975. The shape of this watch instantly delivers the 1970 vibe. I only have seen these in solid steel or gold-plated with the steel back. The case dimension measures 37.5 millimeters excluding the crown by 31.1 millimeters from lug to lug. The case thickness is 11 millimeters, including the original TV screen acrylic crystal. The case lug width is 24 millimeters. In my opinion, the date at 6 suits perfectly on this watch. Because of the dimension of the case, this reference is fitted with a smaller size lady automatic movement under Omega caliber 684 with 24 jewels. Caliber 684 is a date movement with a center second feature. However, because this reference does not carry a second hand, Omega removed the sweep second pinion from the movement. The crystal carries a silicone gasket and is pressed against the case back. It then gets slid into the body of the case and will require 2 metal pieces, as you can see here, to slide into these 2 openings to hold everything together. You'll need to separate the male and female stem to remove the movement from the case. The following piece is also a TV-shaped Omega watch. This one is under reference 111.0109, created in 1972. An extra slim timepiece similar to the his and her pieces shown earlier. The lack of innovation to put in additional effort to create more well-designed case makes most 1970 Omega references appear quite cheap. But that could be the result of the quartz crisis affecting almost all Swiss watch manufacturers at the time. So if you have a low budget but wants to own a nice clean Omega watch, consider pieces from the 1970s. The case dimension on this piece measures 34.2 millimeters, excluding the crown by 36.2 millimeters from lug to lug. The case thickness is 7.6 millimeter, including the original acrylic crystal. The case lug width measures 22 millimeters. Similar to the previous few pieces, I have only seen this reference in solid steel or gold-plated with a steel back. Snap open the case back. Inside, you will find a 17-jewel manual wind movement under Omega caliber 625. The second last piece I have here is a rectangular Omega DeVille under reference 111.0113, created in 1973 and lasted until 1975. Like my example, they were made in solid steel or gold-plated with steel. According to the information that I can find on this watch, the crystal is made of sapphire. When the case condition is in great shape on a gold-plated watch, it really stands out. I like the dial tone and texture, and the gold plated mesh bracelet complement the watch perfectly. The case dimension of this watch measures 28.3 millimeters, excluding the crown by 39.5 millimeters from lug to lug. The case thickness is 6.3 millimeters and the edge thickness is 9 millimeters. The case lug width is 20 millimeters. Snap open the case back and inside you will find a 17-jewel manual wind Omega caliber 625. The last piece for this video is this late 1970s Omega Seamaster 120, created in 1978, also known as the Baby Plo Puff, under case reference 166.0250. If I'm correct, this is the first dive watch from Omega with the sapphire crystal. They come in a solid stainless steel case with a thick bi-directional rotating bezel. Easy to read dial with tritium luminous paste representing each hours and applied on the hands as well. The case dimension of this watch measures 39 millimeters excluding the crown and crown guard by 42.3 millimeters from lug to lug. The original crown is a screw-in type. The case thickness is 11.2 millimeters, which you can describe as a skin diver's watch. The case lug width is 22 millimeters. When you unscrew the case back, always make sure the case gasket is fresh or replace it with a new one. The automatic movement it takes is an Omega caliber 1010 with 17 jewels or an Omega 1012 with 23 jewels. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video if you have made it this far. As always, I hope you have learned something new from watching my video. Let me know in the comment below if you own one of these references and what you think about them. Please support the channel by smashing on that thumbs up like button and consider subscribing. Your support is highly appreciated and I look forward to seeing you in the following video.